balanced diet with daily exercise. If you need to lose weight, ask your doctor about healthy ways to achieve your goal. Colon cancer screening can also help to prevent colon cancer or lead to its early detection when treatment is most effective. If you're 45 years or older, speak to your doctor about having a colonoscopy or some form of colon cancer screening that may be appropriate for you. I'm Dr. Eugene Marcus Cooper. Pay attention to your health. Get the facts and discuss colon cancer with your physician today.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the Public Hospitals Authority.
What does disability look like? In a busy airport terminal? At the check-in counter? At security checkpoints? Or even in baggage claim? Passengers with hidden disabilities often go unnoticed. Globally, 1 in 7 persons have some form of a disability. 80% of those disabilities are non-visible. In an airport environment, workers are often unaware of hidden physical, mental, or neurological disabilities that some passengers live with. This can lead to frustration and a less than ideal travel experience. So, how do we make the invisible more visible? At LPIA, we've implemented the Sunflower Lanyard program. The lanyards are visual cues for airport workers to immediately identify passengers who might need additional assistance. NAD is teaming up with the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities and key stakeholders at LPIA to launch the internationally recognized initiative. We're joining more than 180 airports and 26 countries already in the program. NAD is the first organization in the Bahamas to recognize the Sunflower Initiative. It's a way to show our continued commitment to making LPIA a safe, welcoming, and inclusive airport for all. Passengers needing to secure a free Sunflower lanyard can email sunflower@nas.bs or call 1242-397-8600. For more information, visit www.nassauLPIA.com.
Jeffersons was videotaped in front of a studio audience. Moving on up.
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
Coming up in the Bahamas tonight, the weekend edition, another homicide recorded. Consumer dissatisfaction loans. Outstanding teachers honored. In sports, T-Birds Flyers track meet underway. The Bahamas tonight, the weekend edition starts now. Today is January 6, 2024. The first Saturday in the new year. Welcome to the Bahamas tonight, the weekend edition. I'm Desmond Saunders. Thanks for joining us. Homicides continue to headline news. Today, another homicide was recorded this afternoon, making the murder count for the year higher than the number of days in this new year. Vaughn Albee reports on what has been a familiar storyline.
We're here on East Street between Anderson Alley and Lewis Street, where a young man lost his life on the streets of the capital. A familiar storyline.
We can say that around 2:20 today, we were notified of a male being shot. We're not certain of the circumstances surrounding the shooting, but I can confirm that it occurred upstairs, the green and white two-story structure just behind us. Officers have recovered a firearm along with ammunition, and so we are in the preliminary stages of our investigations into this particular matter. I can say that we are actively in search of a tall, dark male wearing a black jacket and a black tam who fled from the scene in a white vehicle traveling south on East Street.
Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings. The victim identified by his maternal grandmother Mavis Williams as 31-year-old Travis Allen of East Street. The police liaison chief added that the crime fight is not for the police alone.
And not just us. Everybody, it has to be a collective approach by everyone. The police is out in goodly numbers. We're assisting in education, we're assisting in social services, we're assisting in psychology, we're assisting in ministry. We are out there.
And with these homicides, 7 already for the year, police continue to work hard to ensure that the general public is safe. But one thing they need from each and every one of us is our cooperation in the fight against crime. Reporting from East Street, I'm Vaughn Albury for the Bahamas Tonight.
Well, last night another homicide was recorded. Police shot her, alerting officers of the fatal shooting that killed a Nassau Village male resident who was standing at the junction of Forbes Street and Alexandria Boulevard when the gunfire erupted. Lloyd Allen was on the scene.
A second murder in the space of 24 hours, this one taking place in the area of Forbes Street and Alexandria Boulevard in the Nassau Village community. Now, according to law enforcement, this now accounts for the 6th homicide nationwide.
Shortly before 8 p.m., police were called to this area in Nassau Village, particularly Alexandria Boulevard, where we received reports that a male had been shot.
Inspector Desiree Ferguson of the Royal Bahamas Police Force noted that the man, said to be in his early 40s, is known to police as he was recently released after being detained for a serious offense. She added the man was gunned down as he attempted to flee from the shooter.
The male was standing just at the junction of Forbes Street and Alexandria Boulevard when the occupants of a gray Nissan Japanese model vehicle approached him. It was reported that one male exited that vehicle armed with a firearm, discharged multiple shots at the victim, shooting him multiple times. The victim attempted to run but collapsed a short distance.
With an appeal extended by law enforcement to anyone with information regarding this latest shooting, the question of overall efforts by the RBPF was asked in light of a spate of homicides, all in the last 5 days.
We, as a police department, is always concerned, and this one life loss is one too many. And so we take this opportunity to appeal to members to let's try to resolve our conflict in a more peaceful way. Our young men are dying out very rapidly, and it is concerning. It is very alarming. It's disheartening when we have to come to a scene like this.
Ferguson adds that progress is being made regarding the Wednesday double shooting and reminds all residents to report any suspicious activity to their nearest police station. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Lloyd Allen.
The 7 murders counted for the new year already. The issue of crime is once again high on the public's list of concerns. Many are waiting and wondering how the government intends to deal with this seemingly unabating situation. Well, tonight, an official working with the government on this issue outlines what he thinks should happen. Colwell Pyfrom reports.
The first few days of the new year have been a continuation of a trend that's been ongoing. People, mostly young men, most already on bail for murder, gunned down. The killings are largely retaliatory. The fix to this problem is not an undiscovered or elusive solution. It just takes fixing a system that remains inadequate. Consultant at the Ministry of National Security, Dr. Carlos Reed, says although public emotion toward the crime issue is high, what we have is a systemic problem.
The challenge is to create like more institutions where persons could be able to have opportunity to go to trial and deal with their fate.
He's talking about more courts to specifically deal with murders. According to Dr. Reed, there are nearly 600 people charged with murder, and around 400 of them are out on bail.
What we have seen happen, we've seen a number of persons that being out on bail for murder, gunned down. So it serves to say that if a lot of these persons were not out on bail for murder, then the murder rate would have been significantly lower. So it shows that we have a systematic problem rather than an emotional one.
Fixing a broken system and clogging those holes that allow prolific offenders back on the streets while charged with serious offenses is crucial to reducing the carnage taking place. But a more bold and aggressive approach, Dr. Reed says, is needed.
So what the Ministry of National Security has been doing is having conversations with the Attorney General office to see how we could fast track some of these cases and get some of these cases out of the log. So when a person is charged with an offense like murder, they could be brought to court in a reasonable amount of time, so there'll be no need for bail.
He says the current administration has shown its willingness to address this issue and believes that the public will begin seeing concrete steps towards this end very soon. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Corvell Pfeiffer.
Corvell Pfeiffer on the story tonight. There's more after this.
In the Yellow Elder Garden, Ali and her cousins listened to Grammy share tales. The 70s so sweet, with themed costumes and dancing feet. Then came the brass, reaching new heights. A symphony of Bahamian nights. The 2000s, the Yellow Elder, a symbol of pride. Grammy's legacy in view as Ali dances in her Yellow Elder costume. We are alive.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Folk Call Smart Pass, the smart way to pay at the pump.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. More than 70 countries around the world have enacted a similar piece of legislation, each providing their citizens with the ability to access public information, all with a single request. It's a Freedom of Information Act, an act once capturing the attention of the public and of proponents. Antoine Smith has more.
Our general feel right now is that freedom of information should be prioritized in addition to some of the other things that are being put forward.
That's Organization for Responsible Governance Assistant Director Stefan Evans calling for swift action as it relates to the long-awaited Freedom of Information Act. Discourse on the transparency legislation back in the public sphere following the Prime Minister's comments earlier this week that its rollout is not a top priority of his government.
If I have a choice of getting all those things in place and against doing things to alleviate the strain on my Bahamian people, the strain on my Bahamian people, relief will come first.
It's a point org's assistant director notes, but argues the potential FOIA has to impact the daily lives of citizens, pointing to a slew of studies that link government transparency to citizen engagement and trust. He's of the belief that FOIA can be implemented in tandem with government priorities.
No matter how competent our leaders are, they will always be either limited or strengthened by the amount of information and exchange of information between them and the citizens. So as we create bridges for that exchange of information, you will find that things that show up in Parliament, sometimes they may seem very far off from what our lived existence is, and slowly but surely we will see the people's agenda reflected on Parliament's agenda.
The current Freedom of Information Act was passed back in 2017. Since then, 2 persons have held the role of information commissioners. The current commissioner previously revealing plans to begin the rollout in 10 government agencies. To date, there is still no timeline.
I don't think that we should drop the momentum that has been built, even though there's been a bit of a lull. We're in a very good position to be able to put this forward. So we're calling on Bahamians to, get informed about why this matters and to really put pressure on some of their local representatives that this is something that we want.
Now, the rollout of FOIA was a campaign promise of the Davis administration. The Prime Minister also making the promise earlier this week that the rollout will take place during his term. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Antoine Smith.
With growing concerns of inflation on the high cost of fuel and groceries, Bahamians more and more have become increasingly outraged over defective goods and services offered by some retailers. Sharmi Farrington is the Executive Director of the Consumer Protection Commission of the Bahamas. This government agency within the Ministry of Economic Affairs has been tasked with protecting the rights of ordinary consumers.
We are here to deal with those providers that provide goods and services, and where the consumer is adversely affected, they're able to come and make complaints to this office, and we have several remedies that they can get or redress that they can get, particularly where the consumer is complaining about goods that are defective or they've been damaged. We invite them to come into the office and make complaints. Constructions, persons going into stores purchasing, like, say, goods, a product. When they come, I'm just used like a clock. When they reach home, the clock does not work. Then they know that they can come here because it's a defective clock. We've even had persons even complain about the shoes that they bought. The shoe did not fit, or the shoes had some type of defect to it. They come to us.
A whopping 194 consumer complaints was lodged last year. Farrington says local consumers now have redress through the recently amended Consumer Protection Services Act passed in Parliament. This legislation provides protection for consumers against substandard products and services and unscrupulous practices of merchants.
Under that act, those persons can come in, those persons who are dealing with, of course, misleading statements, persons who are being led to believe that the product will give certain Ponzi schemes, those kinds of things. All of those fall under the new act now. So we're encouraging all of those consumers out there, if you're out there, please come in. We're here to assist you. The legislation even allows us, Desmond, that if there are persons out there, it's very expensive to retain lawyers. We're here to assist you even where you have to litigate. In your litigating process, the Act allows us to assist you with your litigation process.
Consumers can also expect beefed-up patrols against corrupt providers in the coming weeks, and officials are hoping to build a stronger partnership with merchants to ensure the protection of Bahamian consumers.
We intend to go out now to all of the providers. As a matter of fact, our first full training session is coming up in February, where we'll be bringing providers into the room. We'll be going over dissecting the new Consumer Protection Act 2023, which was recently passed. Providers will be lectured, so to speak. They are able to ask questions, and it's both for the providers and the consumers.
In case you missed the news or want to stay ahead, subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on X, TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook.
The POP Conference returns January 10th through 14th with special guest speakers Bishop Lambert Gates from Indiana, Indianapolis, Bishop Rudolph McKissick from Jacksonville, Florida, Pastor Tolan Morgan from Detroit, Michigan. And from Washington, D.C., Minister Stephen Hurd. Special guest artists include Miranda Curtis, Melvin Crispell III, Leandria Johnson, and our special guest for a midnight pop-up, Todd Galberth and Ty Trebet. Pop Conference 2024. See you there.
This is ZNS Total Sports.
Welcome to Saturday Sports, everyone. I'm Amajal Knowles, topping sports. The track and field year officially getting started this weekend. The staging of the 32nd annual T-Birds Flyers Track and Field Classic to be taking place at the original Thomas A. Robinson Track and Field Stadium. Over 500 athletes competing in the two-day event, with all of the conventional events in track and field being contested, age divisions ranging from under 7 to under 20. In attendance to see how the athletes would perform out of the gate will be B3A's president, Trimiko Archer.
First track meet for the season, the first real legal track meet, coming off of the odd distance meet. The conditions aren't the very best, and so I was hoping for better conditions, warmer weather, and less wind. But suffer it to be so. We're here and we're seeing good performances nonetheless.
Archer also speaking on getting a jump start on finding athletes that will represent the country at this year's Carifta Games, which is just around the corner.
It's going to be a packed schedule, only because the Carifta Games is early on the calendar. And whenever you have an early Easter, you have a lot of meets happening earlier in the season. And so we're trying to, I never really like that circumstance, only because you can sort of force ripe a training program. But I think that we're okay, and for what I've seen so far, we're on track. I've spoken with some of the coaches, and they're happy to see their athletes where they are right now.
And the countdown for the World Relays is also on, with the 2024 edition being held here in Nassau. Archer also recently giving an update on the return of one of the biggest global track and field meets.
Countdown is on. We have about 4 more months before the curtains raise, and we'll be ready to have the biggest show on earth. I think that this is going to be a particularly exciting one for us. This is going to be an Olympic qualifying event. And so I think that we will attract some of the best athletes in the world. But beyond that, I think it's an opportunity for us as Bahamians to really showcase all aspects of the Bahamas, culturally, musically, and I think people are going to come here to really have a good time in the Bahamas.
In college basketball news, Yolette McPhee-McCuin and her Ole Miss Lady Rebels kicking off SEC play with a win for the 3rd season in a row. They would topple Alabama on its home court 55-45. The Rebels also left Tuscaloosa with its 3rd consecutive win in Coleman Coliseum, first time since 1987. Ole Miss, who is 11-3, once again proved its defensive prowess by limiting Alabama to its lowest point total of the season. For the 25th time in program history, Ole Miss picked up an SEC opening win and 16th to open road play in conference.
Alabama being a 25 net, we expect them to be a tournament team in the long run. We knew that it was important for us to try to start off with a win. And if we want to be considered a tournament team, we know we need to pick up some road wins. I thought our team really pulled together and stuck to the game plan when it mattered the most. And although we have dry spells as far as offensively, we do figure out a way to score when it matters the most. So defensively, it was probably one of our most complete games. I know people saw that we played who in their mind was maybe, not as talented as an Alabama, but it had nothing to do with Alabama.
And that's when we look at your sports on this Saturday. A check on weather when we return.
This is ZNS Total Sports.
Have you ever purchased a defective item and was denied an exchange or cash refund? Contact the Consumer Protection Commission at 393-7795-8 or our 24-hour complaints hotline at 357-7898 and let us help your voice be heard.
Hey, get up, stand up for your right.
Our check on tonight's weather forecast. Chief Meteorologist Basil Dean joins us. Basil, what's going on?
Well, Desmond, we are under mostly cloudy skies, and that's ahead of a cold front that's heading our way. We'll tell you more about that in a short while. We have a temperature of 77 degrees, relative humidity quite rich at 85%. The winds are out of the south-southeast at 12 miles per hour. Your barometric pressure, 1,014.6 millibars. That is 29.96 inches. And your temperatures around the Fumby Valleys, and this is how they are shaping up. Marshall, Barbacoa at 78. Greentoll Key, 76 degrees. Freeport, Grand Bahama, 76 degrees. The Berry Island, 75. Allenstown, Bimini, 76. 76 also in Harbor Island. Rock Sandy Lutra, slightly warmer at 79 degrees. Fresh Creek and Central Andros at 78. And then we're picking up some 81s in Kemp Space, Andros, and Black Point, Exuma, Otterstown, Cat Island, 79 degrees. And those 79s extends into San Salvador and Rumkey. And over in Georgetown, Exuma, 1 degree up at 80 degrees. 81 in Riker Island, Clarencetown, Long Island, and Crooked Island. Also, Betsy Bay, McGowan, and Acklands reporting 81 degrees. Matchetown, Inagua at 82. And the Turks and Caicos Islands with some cloud cover there. They have a temperature of 78 degrees. And your boating forecast tonight in the northwestern islands. Those winds are going to be south to southwest at 10 to 15 knots. Wave heights at 2 to 4 feet. Now, your low tide, that takes place at 9:26 tonight in the central and southeastern islands tonight. Southeasterly component at 10 to 15 knots. The wave heights at 2 to 4 feet. And then tomorrow, Sunday, in the northwestern islands, we will have southwest to west winds initially at 10 to 15 knots in the afternoon, just around 4 o'clock. That frontal system will push through, wind swinging out of the northwest, increasing in speeds, 12 to 18 knots. The wave heights will be building in the afternoon, 3 to 6 feet. So the caution flags go up in the afternoon on Sunday for you small boaters in the northwestern parts of the country. Low tide tomorrow, 4:10 in the morning. The high tide at 6:26 in the afternoon. And the central and southeastern islands on Sunday, wind south to southwest at 10 to 15 knots. And the wave heights 2 to 4 feet. Now, our satellite pictures showing that mass clouds are spreading across the northwest Bahamas. Ahead of that frontal system, we do have a prefrontal trough that will trigger 1 or 2 late-night showers. But the front itself is still pretty much near Lake Okeechobee. That will continue to push towards the south and east. We're expected to go through by tomorrow afternoon. Tonight, we're looking at mostly cloudy and a bit breezy. A couple of showers developing late as that prefrontal trough goes through. Low temperature tonight, 62 degrees. And tomorrow, your high temperature of 80 degrees. Under mainly cloudy skies. It's going to be a bit humid with a morning shower, and then we'll have a little break. Some clouds will be still looking around, but in the afternoon, that's when that front pushes through. We'll see more showers work their way back into the forecast in the afternoon. Now, your extended weather forecast, the cloud mass will be with us right through Monday. Thereafter, things clear up on Tuesday. Lots of sunshine on Tuesday. That will be short-lived. Why? Well, we have a second front that will punch through on Wednesday, and that will bring a slight warm up, but those temperatures will gradually start to cool off as we head into the latter part of the week. Desmond?
An outstanding group of teachers at a local primary school were honored Friday for pulling out all the stops to help students meet a reading goal at that institution. Fern Carey has more.
19 teachers at C.W. Sawyer Primary School are being celebrated and rewarded for the pivotal role they played in helping to boost the school's reading scores. Principal Joan Knowles says it is a big achievement at the school because last year the reading scores were really low at 39%. But when the new school year started back in August, Knowles, along with the senior executive team and teachers, implemented an initiative to boost the reading results.
Teachers have to spend time with phonics, sounds, phonemic awareness, comprehension, vocabulary, spelling. It's geared toward all of those areas. All right, and all of those areas must be implemented in the block from 9:10 in the morning to 10:40. And our teachers have been excited about it, and they've gotten the children excited. So they sing songs, they play musical instruments to get the children to learn sight words. They do all sorts of exciting things so that the children become more interested in the reading. And so the Christmas term exam came around, and we went up to 65%.
In fact, the teachers far exceeded expectations, and each of them received a special reward for their efforts during the Osprey Award ceremony at the school on Friday morning.
I had my Oprah spirit. And you know, Oprah says, you get a car and you get a car. I told him I can't give you a car. But if everybody can improve their ABC passes by Christmas report card by 5%, every teacher on your team gets $100 each.
Parents and teachers are excited about the dividends students are reaping from the reading program.
This is my first term here at C.W. Sawyer and getting the lowest set of children. I can tell you, I had non-readers, and now I have children who are reading fluently, and I have also children who are trying their best to read, and so therefore I've seen it within my first semester that it's worked, and it's continuing to work. And with my son, he came from a private institution. However, that reading block has helped him. He is not reading on his own. I don't read anything for him. He is just striving.
It's more practice so that she can be more fluent with reading, and the words that she are getting introduced to, she's more fluent with it now than stumbling over it.
We have seen increases in our reading scores, even not only school-wide or district-wide, even GLAT, in our GLAT scores. We hardly used to see A, B's, and C's. And guess what? Last year in our scores, we saw A, B's, and C's. And we know the program is working because the data shows it.
We're not finished. We want them to continue because we want a 10% increase by June 2024.
And so we're working, and we want the same momentum to continue. This is the behavior that we want to see consistently in our classes, not only this year, but continuing for the years to come.
It is a goal that all stakeholders at C.W. Sawyer Primary School believe they can achieve. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Fern Carey.
Wow, a remarkable story there. Hats off to the teachers and students at that institution. That does it for the Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition. Thank you for continuing to make ZNS your first choice for news and information. Only the sun covers the Bahamas better than ZNS. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for watching. Good night.